everyone! Welcome to Bradley's Basement Blog, and I'm Tim Bradley. Yeah, you're probably a little bit surprised that I'm doing this as a video review rather than as a text review, as I usually do on my blog. I just thought I might try something a little bit different, especially with this Doctor Who book series that I'm looking at. And why not do it as a video review instead of a text review? The book series that I'm talking about is, of course, the Doctor Who Mr. Men book series. Now, back in April 2017, I purchased the 4 brand new Doctor Who Mr. Men books. These included Doctor First, Doctor Fourth, Doctor 11th, and Doctor 12th. And over the years, these books have grown on me. I have got the complete book series, and in September 2017, I got Doctor 2nd, Doctor 7th, Doctor 8th, and Doctor 9th. In February 2018, I got Doctor 3rd, Doctor 5th, Doctor 6th, and Doctor 10th. Before Christmas last year, I also got Doctor 10th Christmas Surprise, which I've reviewed on my blog if you want to check it out. So, why not have a little look at how these books began and how they end? And I really love the Doctor Who Mr. Men combination, and Roger Hargreaves has done a good job in combining the two together. He's clearly a Doctor Who fan, and he really loves writing and illustrating the books themselves. My favourite Doctor Who Mr. Men book will always be Mr. Clumsy, as I still got it on my bookshelf. Yeah, I was really intrigued about these books, and I was a little bit dubious about whether they would work and whether they would catch on. As I said before, they've grown on me, and, you know, they have really given me a good impression. So, how does this book series begin? Well, we're going to find out today as we begin with Doctor First. Are you intrigued? Well, sit back, and I hope you enjoy the review.
Doctor First features the First Doctor and Susan. I enjoyed Doctor First very much. The book cover's pretty good. It was also fun to see how the William Hartnell Doctor looked in Mr. Men form. The walking stick is a nice touch to his character, and they've managed to keep the long white hair he had on TV. He also seems to have a seemingly light purple body in Mr. Men form. And it would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that he's not wearing much except for some dark blue shoes. The Doctor does look grumpy on the cover, doesn't he? Trust me, he's going to be like that for a lot of the story. The story begins with the Doctor and Susan in the TARDIS. The Doctor is having cornflakes for breakfast and seems to have already drunk his cup of tea, which is seemingly empty. Unless, of course, it was Susan's cup of tea. Also, check out how happy-looking Susan is compared to the Doctor's grumpy look. Susan's wearing that hat she wore in the first TV episode. She's also blue! I love blue. "Good morning, Grandfather," said Susan. "Good? I don't think there's anything good about it," grumbled the Doctor, who was not in a good mood. You know something, I don't think this is a particularly accurate definition of the First Doctor so far by Roger Hargreaves. I mean, yeah, he was grumpy at times in the TV series, but he also had moments when he was laughing quite a bit and had a sense of humour. I have a feeling this Mr. Men version of William Hartnell's Doctor is going to be grumpy throughout. I just hope that's not the case. And why was he not in a good mood? It was the TARDIS. It had been making clonking noises all night long, and had kept the Doctor awake. From what I've seen already in this book so far, I like how the Doctor interior looks by this point in the First Doctor's timeline. It has that overhead ceiling that I recognise from watching the early Doctor Who episodes, and the roundels on the walls look good. I'm wondering though if the colour scheme for the First Doctor's TARDIS is correct, considering those episodes were in black and white. Something was wrong, and the Doctor knew that he was going to have to land somewhere and fix the problem. Try not to land on Earth in 1963, Doctor. You might pick up 2 random school teachers. The nearest planet was Earth. Drat! It had to be Earth, didn't it? The Doctor did not like Earth. It was a small, ugly planet, populated by particularly irritating people. Particularly irritating and not very clever people. How dare we come from a small, ugly planet? How dare we become so particularly irritating and not very clever? But the Doctor had no choice. He and Susan landed in London. Yeah, just send Susan off to Coal Hill School, Doctor, and everything will be fine. The Doctor was in one of those moods where he was best left alone. He set about fixing the TARDIS, and this puts him in a better mood. Ah, apparently I was wrong. The first Doctor in this Mr. Men story didn't look grumpy throughout. In this picture, he looks pretty happy. That's the first Doctor we know and love, isn't it? I also like how the first Doctor's TARDIS console appears in this picture. It puts me a lot in mind of an adventure in space and time. It was green behind the scenes, so apparently it's green here. Good. He, that is the Doctor, whistled as he worked. Whistle while you work. Da 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 da. Whistling was something the Doctor rarely did. Yeah, in fact, I barely recall a time when William Hartnell's Doctor whistled at all in the TV series. He even told Vicky off for whistling when he was fixing the time-space visualizer in The Chase. Oops. The TARDIS was soon mended, and it was time to go. But where was Susan? Out exploring in the city, no doubt. No, she could be on her way to meet a boy. After all, that would be so wonderfully normal. The Doctor waited, and waited, and then he waited some more. I remember this waiting happened a lot in the Mr. Men books, when I was reading them as a kid, or listened to them on audio cassette. No surprise that it should be happening here as well. He, that is the Doctor, began to worry, and decided that he had better go and look for Susan. He stepped out of the TARDIS, and was immediately confronted by a group of strangely dressed people. And from looking at this picture, it seems that the two people the Doctor's meeting are hippies. At least, that's what I think they are. They certainly look it, with the long hair and colourful clothes. Which makes me wonder, were hippies around in 1963? I thought the hippie movement started in the late 1960s. Unless, of course, this is the 1963 the TARDIS has landed on Earth. It's not mentioned here. The Doctor was appalled by their casual dress sense. You're one to talk, Doctor. You're practically naked from where I'm reading. Hey, man! What's your name? Asked one of the badly dressed people. Yeah, he's a hippie. That's why I'm calling him. Unless it's a she or her that just spoke. The Doctor, replied the Doctor. Hi, Doc. Nice to meet you. What's up, Doc? The Doctor frowned. I'm not a Doc. I'm the Doctor. I am a Time Lord. Kindly refrain from addressing me as Doc, as the first Doctor said to Tegan in the Five Doctors. Also, should the Doctor be saying he's a Time Lord at this point? By this point in the TV series, the Doctor's origins weren't discovered until the end of the Patrick Troughton era. I know that rule was broken in A Big Hand for the Doctor, short story from Puffin Books, but should it be mentioned as well in this? One of the hippie people, not sure if it's the man or the woman, says to the Doctor, Wow, groovy! The Doctor frowned again. Groovy was another word he did not like. If you haven't noticed already that the first Doctor in the Mr. Men world does frown a lot. He's also grumpy throughout this story. Apart from a few moments when he does smile, the first Doctor doesn't seem to be cheerful and always tends to be moaning and complaining about certain things. Also, what's wrong with the word groovy, Doctor? Is it because you're an old man and old men aren't supposed to like young people's slang, especially from hippies? Was the first Doctor against the hippie movement? That does not seem to be the case with your later youthful incarnations, Doctor. Anyway, back to the story. The Doctor had an awful feeling that all was not well, so he began his search for Susan. As he passed the dark alleyway, a movement caught his eye. There was something lurking in the shadows. The Doctor's quick mind instantly suspected an alien. And from the look of the shadow in this picture, it does look very alien-like. Is it a quark? It looks like a quark with its square body and round head. Not sure about the antennae, though. Cautiously, he, that is the Doctor, crept down the alley. Suddenly, a door opened, and the light from the doorway revealed that the shape in the shadows was a cat. I gotta say, I found it very funny when the Doctor discovered a cat. That's typical Adam Hargreaves / his father Roger Hargreaves / Mr. Men style of humour. And of course it was an old-fashioned TV set that was making it appear like some sort of quark monster that I assumed it to be. With a sigh of relief, the Doctor returned to the street. He was still troubled. He could not put his finger on it, but he felt a strong sense that something wasn't right. I don't blame you, Doctor. I'd feel embarrassed if I found out that thing lurking in the shadows was a cat. And when he turned the corner, he discovered he was not wrong. He was right. It was the Cybermen. They were in London, and they were not on holiday. And goodness me, look at how unhappy these Cybermen are. Cybermen aren't supposed to look unhappy. They're also not supposed to look happy either. Cybermen are emotionless, aren't they? Mind you, I like the moon-based look given to these Cybermen in this Mr. Men Doctor Who story. Although, wouldn't it have made more sense to include the 10th Planet Cybermen for this story? The Doctor knew the Cybermen well enough to know that they were not sightseeing. Cybermen were not interested in the changing of the guard. I believe the Doctor. I mean, look at this picture. Who ever heard of a Cyberman taking photos with a camera? That's simply ridiculous. Not to mention silly. Cybermen were not interested in souvenirs. Okay, now you're getting silly. Who ever heard of a Cyberman drinking tea out from a mug? And one with the Union flag on it? Also, is it me, or is this Cyberman particularly high from drinking this mug of tea he's having? He looks happy in this picture. Unless, of course, someone spiked his tea. What they, that is the Cybermen, were interested in was taking over the world. Of course! As Bison would say in that Street Fighter movie that I've never seen. The Doctor ran for his life, as he usually would do, as the Cybermen fired their lasers at him. The Doctor was not fast. He was far from the fastest thing on 2 legs. Oh, this running takes the breath out of me. I need to sit down to catch my breath. But he could still outrun the Cybermen. For in fact, the Cybermen could not run. At least not until Nightmare in Silver anyway. He, that is the Doctor, I'm having to say that a lot, aren't I, had to find Susan. And as luck would have it, he found her in the next street. Or the park, as it looks like it, especially on that green bench she's sitting on. She's also wearing that hat that looks so oversized for her. Cute. She, that is Susan, was listening to some music on a radio. Pop music. The Doctor would not have described pop music as music. He would have described it as noise. That's not what you said, Doctor, when you seemed to be a fan of the Beatles in Fanfare for the Common Men. Albeit you didn't like the Common Men's music when Susan played it on her transistor radio, but there you are. Also, check out this picture. Look at the way the Doctor's holding the radio in his right hand and giving a pained expression on his face. He really looks like he hates this music when he's not listening to it. Even the yellow bird flying in the air close to the Doctor and the worm in the ground don't like hearing this music. The Doctor frowned, as usual, but it gave him an idea. He made some quick adjustments to the radio. The radio waves drifted down the street, and the effect on the Cybermen was extraordinary. They were thrown into confusion, the wires crossed in their mechanical brains, their legs jerked, and their arms whirled. They did not know whether to take over the world or to dance. And from the looks of this picture, it does look like this Cyberman is dancing to the music notes that have appeared in the air. He's also got this open-mouthed expression that makes him say, "Ooh, ooh, what's going on? Why am I receiving words in my head that say, won't you please love me? Won't you please love me? Girl, I'm begging you, please. Oh, what? Oh, I should have known that song from Fanfare from the Common Men would have followed me. It was all too much for them. The Cybermen, that is. They turned tail and fled for their spaceship, which we don't see in this book, strangely enough. And for that matter, why is it we only seen one Cyberman dancing to the music from Susan's radio? I'm sure there were more of them here. The book ends with Susan and the Doctor in the park, street, wherever they are, and are now joined by a worm in the ground and a dog who's just appeared out of nowhere. Did the yellow bird transform into the dog? Susan looks happy, and so does the Doctor, as he's carrying the radio in his left hand. The music's effect was equally dramatic on the Doctor. He smiled. "You're smiling!" cried Susan in amazement. "Big shock, I know." "Nonsense!" he huffed. "Time Lords don't smile." Well, that is definitely a lie. And not for the first time that day, well, can you guess? He laughed? That's right. Oh, good, I was thinking that he frowned. Oh, well, that smile on his face in the last picture was too good to last, wasn't it? Doctor First as a book is pretty entertaining. It's not an action-packed adventure as you would expect a Doctor Who story to be. But it's pretty funny as you would expect a Mr. Men book story to be. The book also features a lot on the Doctor, which I know is expected to be the case when reading these, but there isn't a lot of development on Susan. She only appears in a few scenes while she's absent in the story, The Cybermen are also depicted as being rather silly and don't do anything threatening. They look cool through their Mr. Men look, and also they went for the moon-based look feel to them. The depiction of the First Doctor in this story isn't exactly what I would consider an accurate version. Most of the time he's seen as grumpy and disliking of humans. Maybe that was what he was like before an earthly child, but it's not really how I'd review the First Doctor's character overall. Overall, Doctor First was pretty enjoyable, and it was a good book to read, especially for a children's story, and a good start to the Doctor Who Mr. Men book series in chronological order. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review by me and Doctor First. If you did, then I'll certainly carry on with reviewing the rest of the book series, with the next one being Doctor Second. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.